Thank you to ESET for sponsoring a portion of this video. So before the Pixel Fold was announced, at least in my mind, it was one of the most anticipated devices in recent memory. Finally getting a foldable phone with a huge display and the awesome Google Pixel software and amazing Pixel camera. But did Google deliver? The Pixel Fold's been out for almost a year and kind of the shininess has worn off a little bit. Is this the Fold to beat them all? And if you're in the market for a foldable phone or just a new phone, is it still safe to consider the Pixel Fold? So the biggest thing I love about this phone is the overall design, or at least the feel in the hand. The aspect ratio of the outer screen is so close to perfect. It's about as perfect as a foldable I think can get. One of the issues I've had with other foldables is I felt like I had to use the inner screen to get some semblance of a good experience. I'm talking specifically about the Z Fold series of devices. The outer screen seemed to be lacking in some way, but the best way I can describe it, the Pixel Fold's outer screen feels like a regular phone when I use it, and I mean that in the best, most complimentary way that I can, and I think it accomplishes what I think a foldable should be great at. It should be normal phones when needed and tablets when larger screens are needed, and this basically does that. And because of that, I found myself actually using the inner screen less than I expected. The outer screen is just so good that most of the time I was using it folded, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Inside, this is running, I think at this point, the much maligned Tensor G2. When it first came out, that was much more of a downside than a positive. Compared to other processors that were out when this was released, the G2 was, let's say, a disappointment. But after using the phone and kind of forgetting about the specs, I tended to forget about the G2 and really was only reminded when the phone got very, very warm. Now, I don't want to go out and say this is a good processor. I think the G3 is a great processor. The G2 is Google figuring things out, and I think they really figured it out by the time they got to the 3, but the 2 was not a home run, especially compared to what Apple and Qualcomm were doing. The processor performed generally okay. One area they wish they performed better was battery. And foldables obviously have a lot going on, so it's hard to expect tons and tons of battery life. But I think the Fold battery life is just is all right. Probably due to the processor. I imagine a big chunk goes there, or maybe just the battery size. But I am hoping with the next generation, Google can tackle that. Now the Pixel, the name Pixel is synonymous with camera. And when the Fold was announced, I was hoping they would have the best camera system ever on a foldable. And the camera is definitely good, but it is not the stellar camera system that we have on the Pixel 8. And I think that's because the Pixel 8 camera system is just so incredible. Now, it's still a Pixel camera, so every photo is some version of good. And if I never saw Pixel 8, Pixel 8 Pro cameras, I'd say this was great. And when you compare them side by side, you can definitely start to see a difference. So we obviously don't know a lot about what the Fold 2 is going to be. One thing that we do know about is that you should be protecting yourself online. I was one of the over 70 million people recently who got a relatively scary email from an AT&T data breach that my social security number, personal information was widely available on the web. It's important to keep your information safe and secure, and the folks at ESET have been doing an incredible job at that. You might not know the name, but they've been in this for over 25 years, and they were pioneers in the field of internet security. Right now, they're protecting more than 110 million people worldwide. They're not owned by some gigantic corporation. They are privately run and owned, and they're still run by the same engineers who started the company decades ago. I think that independence is important. It allows them to protect their customers' interests first and foremost. The ESET Home Security Ultimate offers a ton of peace of mind and features, things like credit score monitoring, social security number tracking, dark web monitoring, and even $1 million insurance, and identity restoration services. They also have a full VPN to keep your internet secure or if you're connecting on a public network. They also offer browser privacy and security. They can check your internet browser for phishing on every link that you click. Whatever you need to keep your life secure, ESET has you covered. And ultimately, that gives you peace of mind. And with this world online where everybody's trying actively to get your information, even the most diligent can still get the information stolen. Or even when you don't do anything wrong, like in AT&T's case, your information still find its way out there. So if this sounds like something you want to check out and experience the ESET Home Security Ultimate, they're offering a pretty good 30% discount. All information you need though to learn more or sign up will be in the description down below. The biggest issue I had with the Pixel Fold tended to come from software. Now this is a completely new avenue for Google, so I expected there to be hiccups. And luckily it seems that Google is definitely trying to make the software better. In fact, recently got an update that brought in some really new features that fixed some of my biggest issues. So a big one is being able to use an app on the interior screen in full screen. So before, if I use an app like Instagram, I'd have black bars on the side, but now every app can be forced to fill the screen. I think that is absolutely awesome. But the more I use the interior, changes like that are what I want to see from Google. And it seems like the interior screen is kind of a blown up version of the outer screen. If Google can change that and make the phone more useful or different uses, different screens, I'm all for it. That's something that Samsung has done a great job doing. And I think what kind of typifies that is that you can't have separate home screens for the inside and the outside. They are mirrored and the same. And for a lot of ways, that's totally fine. But I would have liked the Samsung approach here and given me the choice. Do I want to have separate home screens on the inside than I do on the outside? I think that would have helped me use the inner screen even more. On the hardware side, I think the hinge could probably use some work. This very much feels like a first generation hinge. I can only compare it to maybe the first generation Galaxy Fold, where it doesn't quite snap into place like I'd want it to. So they were able to get that adjusted a little bit. I would be happy. The fact that it still doesn't open a full 180 degrees unless you kind of bend it is weird. It's a good hinge and it has held up, but there's definitely areas for improvement with the next generation. And I do think this was a great start for the Pixel Fold. Now they're almost a year in, like what can we expect from the next generation? So it was announced at Google I/O in May and it was released last June, so would not be surprised to announce at the same time this year. We're also expecting the phone to rock the latest Tensor G4 processor, completely skip the G3, and if that's the case, we might not see it until the fall when Google announces the Pixel 9 series. But either way, we're probably just a few months away from this phone. The biggest thing Google is going to have to deal with is foldable competition. Samsung is on its 5th generation of folding phones. Chinese manufacturers are iterating very, very fast. Now, according to leaks and rumors, this is a Pixel Fold 2, and it clearly is an evolution of what we have now. The biggest visual change design-wise is on the back with the camera module. It seems to be shrinking from a bar across the back, more of a typical square shape we've seen on other phones. And just makes it less recognizable as a Pixel, but also kind of cleans up the back a bit. It also looks to be adopting a squared off design that we've seen leaked with the Pixel 9 series, which personally I think looks great, but obviously, subjective. More importantly, got some leaked measurements of the screen and overall hardware, and it tells us a ton. So according to these leaks, the outer screen will be 6.4 inches, which is up from the current 5.8, and the inner screen is going to be 7.9, up from 7.6. These are big changes to the screen, and the overall sort of size of the phone is changing too. So I'll put the measurements on the screen, but if these were true, it means we're getting a significantly taller phone, a slightly wider one, and noticeably thinner one as well. Every dimension of the phone appears to be touched. The outer screen size is probably one of my favorite parts of the current Fold, like I said, so I'm hoping that it feels and stays the same, but I also don't mind getting more screen in and out. I think it's gonna take some time to get this in the hand and then see how it feels. I think the biggest thing I wanna see is a better and cleaner interior screen. I think the size and the aspect ratio are great, but the bezels are thick and the seam is very noticeable. I'll be happy if Google can do anything to improve either of those things. I haven't seen a leaked image of the interior screen. The outer screen does seem to have thinner bezels. Hopefully it's a clue what to expect on the inside as well. I'm also expecting Google to move from an embedded camera inside the bezel to an in-screen camera. So all of that, along with different screen dimensions, means the phone is going to look and feel completely different from the Pixel Fold we have right now. Is that a good thing? I don't know. I'm curious to see it and try. The other thing I hope we see with the next gen Fold is a better camera system. Since this is the biggest, baddest, most expensive phone Google makes, I'd expect it to have the best camera system they make too, so I really hope that makes its way to this phone. Now, as I mentioned, it seems like we're getting closer to the release of the new phone. One last rumor that I don't know how to feel about is the name. So it just released a video talking about the Pixel 9 lineup, and according to some rumors, second gen Pixel Fold will be baked into the Pixel 9 line. So supposedly, instead of it being called Pixel Fold 2, it might be called the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. I don't know what to think of that name. I understand making it a closer part of Pixel family, but it just sounds strange. So kind of the question at the beginning too, is it safe to buy? Obviously it's like safe to buy. It's still a really good phone, but unless you're getting an insane deal on it, I would like 99.999% say that you wait a few months to see what comes next. The jump from the Tensor 2 to hopefully Tensor 4 or even Tensor 3, the changes in the camera system, the new dimensions, hopefully improved bezels and hinges should make the Pixel 2 or 9 Pro Fold, whatever they call it, an absolutely killer phone and one that I cannot wait to get my Fold loving hands on.